How's it going, guys? Coffee here. Today I wanted to go over what my league starter tier list is for the SS8 Sandlord League. This is my interpretation basically of the patch notes and what builds that I think are going to thrive and not on the very starting days of the league. And this is basically on getting your character and your build into tier 8 so that you can start making money. There's going to be a lot of characters here. Again, this is just my opinion. There's going to be something that I'm sure I'm going to end up being wrong about that someone's going to be able to pull off, but based off of what I know and what I've basically ascertained from the patch notes themselves, this is what I think is going to be the safest starters to league start on and ensure that you have a good time and you have a very smooth transition into tier 8. Again, keep this in mind. This is not saying that any of the builds that are rated lower are not capable of doing all the content in the game. Some of these builds may even excel at it very, very well and be able to get there with a really low amount of money, but without being able to test it, I don't want to confidently tell somebody that something is much better than it is. So I'm going to go based off of what I've learned with this without being able to actually test anything and just having to kind of ascertain and do the math based off the numbers that we have. First things first, we'll start with the new hero here, which is Thea 3. And she is, as usual, with the new heroes or the new heroes that we get. They typically come out overtuned. They're just always going to be leaning towards the stronger side of things because obviously they want people to want to play them, which makes sense. And then, they're never going to be typically overly dampened because, again, they want people to play them. So based off of the kit that we're seeing for her, it's already looking really, really strong. Just with a stacking multiplicative damage bonus here with this 15% additional damage that they did mention in the video. When they hovered the tooltip, it did say it was multiplicative. With this being at 15%, all you basically need is a single source of gain blessing on hit or something like that to ensure that you're capping out your target with the max stacks of this very, very quickly. So whether you're running 15 or 25 max stacks, depending on if you have removed all of your blessing stacks or not, then you are going to be able to stack this multiplicative damage buff quite high and quite quickly. So that's going to be really, really good. Everything else, they are pushing this erosion damage on her kit. She doesn't have to be played as dot based. She can be played as hit based as well. So realistically, for leveling on her, you're going to have quite a few options. It looks like they did bring Haunting Abomination back. So that is most likely going to end up being something that you might want to use. If not, there's always Shadow Shot, things like that, as well as they're pushing a lot of stuff for attack-based erosion damage stuff as well. So we're not really sure what they're going to have her level with. Again, she might be leveling with spells. She might be leveling with melee stuff. I know the other two Thea characters level with melee. So she might be leveling with those instead, but we'll have to see. They did add some, again, extra transitional gear here. I don't know if this means early in campaign. I don't know if this means from tier 7 bosses, but a lot of this stuff is definitely focused on her kit. All of this stuff in regards to getting max blessings or blessings on hit are all basically pushed towards ensure that this character has a very smooth progression through the campaign and getting themselves into tier 8, which, again, should be really smooth. You have multiple options. Like there has been absolutely zero changes to affliction scaling, which with affliction scaling basically means every single dot build is always just going to have a really, really good time because affliction scaling is extremely abundant and pushes any build that's doing damage over time into a really, really strong spot. So that's the exact same reason for why Yuga Space-Time Elapse is here as well. Yuga 2. They are also in that same boat. The only changes that they ended up really getting, they ended up basically getting a nice little damage buff here added at their level 45 trait, because currently right now their level 45 trait has just a just an ability that is, you know, giving a very minor damage buff, but this is mainly for mapping to ensure that you can move twisted space-time more frequently. And they have now given them a new node here, level 45, that you can swap to for bossing to get a nice big damage over time buff. So nice little damage buff there. And then they are also adding this second one here that you can also potentially use for bossing to basically swap to, because ever since they made the changes to where curse effect was heavily nerfed, you couldn't really get as much curse effect now as you could before. Like before, you could realistically get yourselves into the thousands of % of curse effect. They really toned all of that down because of the curse effect scaling that was occurring. So what that means is that space-time curse got a lot worse. So now they're giving you a different option for that. The other things, the only thing that Yuga did end up losing is mind control. Did basically get the smallest of nerfs by losing some movement speed. At the end of the day, it does slow you down a little bit, but it's not the end of the world when you start to stack a lot of movement speed between blurry steps, between, you know, basically other sources of movement speed. It just means you need to focus it a little bit more in your gear. You may be trading off a couple nodes for movement speed instead of damage, but at the end of the day, it's not going to change anything. Same thing goes for Whirlwind and Anger Rayhon. Like, there was no changes to Burst. There was no changes to Rayhon at all, other than for Seething Silhouette, which was, again, just a movement speed nerf here. And same thing goes for the Yuga 1 here. Also just losing some movement speed. So Rayhon was already extremely good last league with Burst and Whirlwind. With it only losing a little bit of movement speed, that's not going to change. It was a very smooth build for a lot of people. They had a really good time on it. I know Milky and others were able to push that build to the extreme and do all the content in the game with it. So nothing changes there. It's still in a really, really good spot. Iris here, everyone expected with Iris 2 coming out that Iris 1 was going to end up falling behind, but they've already made some buffs or adjustments here. So Iris 1, amazing friends. This removal of this max Magus spirit quantity, -1, means that you can use this node now in order to use 2 spirits that can both use their ultimate abilities, which is really, really big. Before, this was always capped at 1. With it being able to be used at 2 now, is going to be a nice big boost to her damage. They also made an additional change where minion skill levels have been buffed again to where they are 12% additional damage multiplicatively per level instead of 8%. So that's quite a significant buff. You're looking, because everyone was hitting level 30 on this at least. So you're looking at a good, nice little chunk of additional damage there, which is going to be a nice damage boost. And then the other thing I also did was the Friend Nemesis chest has been removed from being a Turna exclusive to now being a NetherRealm common drop. And the damage or the stats on this has been adjusted. This used to be explicitly for the Frost Iris, but it has been changed since the Frost Iris build was removed from the game as they removed hero relics. This chest basically didn't have any purpose anymore, but it has been retooled now to offer 40% additional skill damage, which is a huge damage buff. And if it's being added to the common drop pool, then that means it's just going to be extremely abundant compared to where it used to be. So they're really, really pushing Iris again pretty hard. Iris 2 is taking a little bit of buffs here, or little bit of nerfs here, right? With the bonus from each layer of breeze being reduced, so she's losing, it's like what, 45% damage or so. With the nerf to this, as well as the nerf to Whirlwind Tango, which is the trait that most everyone was using, which allowed you to basically spam the ultimate abilities while inside of your spirit. That's being nerfed, but she was overperforming already, so she's still going to be good. It just means you aren't typically going to be using Whirlwind Tango unless you're using it specifically for movement. You'll probably just give that up and be using Breeze's Whisper instead. And you'll just kind of forego doing the Stone Golem flying around spam thing, just because losing 50% of your damage to Whirlwind Tango, presuming that goes live, it feels like quite a bit of too much of a nerf, given that they're already nerfing the damage from Breeze. So she's already losing 45% damage from there. Does she really need her damage cut in half again? For Whirlwind Tango, I don't know. I think it's probably a bit much, so I wouldn't be surprised if that gets changed before launch. But even if it is, it should still end up basically being really, really smooth, because she was already overtuned enough that it'll still be a smooth experience into Thunder Spirits or whatever you end up wanting to play with it. Next up, we do have Frostbitten Gemma. She is still in a good spot, as she always has been. Nothing's changed there. You can again play her with Frost Terra, or you can play her with Ice Lances. The freeze nodes on the tree are still extremely strong, and they are even just making things a little bit better here. With the Arcanist node is just getting some additional damage as well. 12% additional damage here. Nothing is really changing there, so she just has the same damage she had last league, if not even a little bit more. And then she was always smooth. Freeze is a great defensive ability that gets you really, really far, and you can kind of push yourself again with the same affliction scaling that you can on everything else. Same thing here. We have Gemma 3 or Fire Gemma here, and this one is a big one because they have actually buffed Hammer of Ash by quite a lot. You can see the Hammer of Ash damage has almost doubled. This build was already performing very, very well, especially for leveling. You get Hammer of Ash at level 1 with her, and Ignite is in a decent spot. Again, same affliction scaling you can do on everything else. Because Fire is not the meta skill right now as well, even the corrupted versions of the rings to get your base fire damage are extremely cheap. They're like 1 FE, like 1 to 2 FE is what they were literally going for last league. So they're going to be in that same spot. It's not at the forefront of anything. Everyone is going to be trying to play this new erosion based stuff. So if you want a character that's going to be really, really smooth, nice and defensive, and have a really, really smooth leveling experience where you start on one skill and you're going to stay on that skill basically forever, you can do that with the with Gemma 3 here. So I'm expecting her to again have one of the smoothest leveling experiences out there with this buff, because she already had a very strong and smooth leveling experience, and it's just getting better. So I don't see anything changing there. We have Yuga. I don't remember, whatever, Yuga 1. I don't remember his exact name anymore, but he is he got a small little nerf here, Space-Time Illusion. This is your level 75 trait. It gets a little bit of a movement speed penalty. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because by using these right here, you can't use your main skill, which is whatever. This is what you still end up using anyways. Losing a little bit of movement speed is not the end of the world. There's no other further nerfs to either Chain Lightning or Ice Lances, so these builds are still going to be extremely strong. Same thing goes with Lethal Flash Karino. There's been no changes to him. The build has been strong for quite a few leagues now, or Wilt Shot Karino rather. There's been no nerfs or any changes to Wilt either, so you can play Wilt Shot Karino or you can play Ice Spear Karino. They're both going to be extremely good, extremely strong, and nice and smooth. Karino itself takes a little bit. That's the only reason why the Karino and Yuga builds are A tier instead of S tier, is they do take a little bit of money to get themselves off the ground, but it's not the most. They did take small little nerfs to burst activation as well. It lost a little bit of damage. But at the end of the day, a little bit of movement speed loss doesn't matter, especially if you just get to the point where you are spamming Blink anyways. So these builds already had a little bit of cooldown recovery, so if you're just spamming Blink for your movement skill, any loss to movement speed doesn't really matter. Not the end of the world, so nothing should change there. Next, we have Gemma 1. She's very, very good. Nothing really changed with her. She has some nice things here. They did do a nice little buff to Lightning Storm, if I remember correctly. That was always one of the ones that she could really take advantage of. So you can still play Gemma 1 as a lot of different things. You can still play it as a freeze build as well with ice lances. She has a lot of different variety, and there's always something strong you can do with her. So she's going to be pretty smooth. And you have a lot of different build variety with her. So if you want a class that potentially can pivot into a lot of different options, Gemma is going to be a good one for you. Gemma 1, rather. Next up, we have Selena and then both Ericas. Selena is going to be solid still. She got tuned down a little bit from a couple of leagues ago when she came out. So her damage has been more balanced, but she was still performing extremely well. Goes back into the same phase that you kind of get with Gemma 3, where she isn't as meta, so her gear is not very expensive. So you are trying to stack as many channeling stacks as you can kind of on her with a lot of other things, but that gear sometimes gets a lot cheaper depending on what you're trying to do, because of the fact that it's not the kind of meta skill right now anyways. So you can get on her. She is going to be pretty smooth. It's kind of a one-button playstyle on her because you have your channeling skill that you're using as your main skill that you set it to toggle, and it's a nice, easy playstyle. Keeps things nice and loose. For the Ericas themselves, these builds are going to perform extremely well at endgame. The new Erica changes here seem like they're going to be really strong for Windstalker Erica, Erica 1. These buffs just seem like they're going to be an overall damage buff to her. The only issues that we have with both Ericas is they both do have to level as melee, which does end up being a little bit more gear dependent. So if they don't offer good leveling items for them, then they have a little bit of a rough time through campaign and just to get themselves off the ground. If you start these characters once you've already have like 100 FE or something, it's a completely different experience. So it's almost to the point where you are still better leveling on one of the S tier characters, farming a tiny bit of money, and then going and spending the 2 hours to rush through campaign on Erica with some leveling gear, and then get yourself going that way, just because otherwise going through them where you're stuck on using Thunder Spike, you may die in campaign for like the first time you've ever died, right? Versus if you're playing some of these S tier builds, you're killing bosses in under 1 second. They are basically just melting because the spells are really, really strong, or because the hero things are really, really strong, like Burst on Rayhon, just kind of will carry you out. So that keeps you good. Same thing with Erica 2. The numbed effect has been adjusted ever so slightly. It really hasn't changed at all. A little bit of, tiny little bit of changes here to numbed, and little basically numerical adjustments, as they say here. And nothing's changed there. For the next ones here, we have the two Motos, Seething Rayhon and Bing. Bing's another one of those characters that does perform very, very well once you have money. Though Inexhaustible Barrage, which was the main build for Bing, has been nerfed quite significantly here. So you can see it lost almost half of its damage entirely. So that's going to be quite significant. It is going to be felt. I'm sure they're going to find some new creative way to do something really, really fun and creative on Bing, but it's not going to be something that is easy to pull off without money. So the same thing with the two changes to Moto. Moto has just fallen behind. I do know that they are trying to add things back to the game to bring minions back. Again, those same buffs that they are doing for minions for that are buffing the minions for Iris are going to buff Moto, but Moto, both the Motos were kind of overtuned or overly nerfed in the direction that has kind of put them behind other builds at this point. So that I feel like they're probably still going to need a bit more love and care before I'm going to trust them to basically say that they're competing as well as all the other builds. So I haven't seen it yet. The changes they made to Moto 2 and Moto 1 might be good enough, but and I'm going to need to see it to believe it. So that's kind of where it stands with those. Same with, again, Karino 1, both of the original Theas, and Karino 3. Karino 3 still doesn't really have an identity. They killed off the builds that you could actually play with him after the league he came out. He doesn't do anything special really in regards to that. He's so specialized in what he's trying to do that he just doesn't perform as well off the ground as a lot of the other ones. Same with Ranger of Glory here. I do know they're adding some new supports and some extra things. They may be performing a bit better now, but I wouldn't put my neck out there and recommend it to you guys, and because I don't want you guys to have a bad time. So I'd rather just give you builds for something that I know is absolutely going to have a good time, and send you off from there, rather than setting you off on the wrong path. They did do both of the original Theas, they did rework their kits a little bit. But all in all, they were overperforming for so long that they just killed a lot of their damage multipliers, so they just don't really compete with the other classes anymore with some of the stuff. So it is still quite restrictive. They did add caps on everything for a lot of the kit, and once you add all those together, it just doesn't really add up to what you can get on some of the other classes. For Rosa, she might actually be a little bit better. I think calling her F tier might be a little steep. She does have a decent leveling with Ground Shaker. She always has. Some of the changes they've made kind of make it to where it removes a lot of the annoyance of playing her early, but you're still leveling melee on her, and it does mean that you are going to be more gear reliant. So it's still not something I'd recommend until she's tested, right? Once people test her a bit, then we'll get a chance to determine if she's actually overperforming now and she has a nice and smooth leveling, because most of the time when it comes to stuff like that, you don't want something that's going to cost you a lot of money or require you to craft a lot of special gear in order to just get yourself off the ground. So, yeah, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and let me know what build guides you want to see. I'll try to take a look and listen to what build guides people do want to see. I'm definitely going to have a build guide for Thea 3 coming out over the next couple days. I will also be putting out something probably for Iris, and then the standard ones for Gemma 2, Gemma 3, and Yuga 2. So if you have any questions, again, leave them down below, and other than that, see you in the next one.